This just in, a long-standing phenomenon in the anime community. Selfcest. Yes, it's just as gross as it sounds. I'm here live now, in the streets, going to ask the people what they think about this ideology in fandom ideals. Ma'am, what do you think about Selfcest? Me? I think it's incredibly gross. The first time I saw it was in like Undertale, and we'd love to speak on this, now wouldn't we, honey? They live the same lives. They're practically the same. I think it works great because these kind of characters, they just know each other on a deeper level that nobody else ever could. Nobody else could ever understand all the trauma and the things that they've gone through with just the way that they could. You know. And you, what do you think? That's disgusting and it's creepy. Don't talk to my husband that way.
So?
Wait a second. You're just me with a mustache.
So?
And you're just me if you agreed with him. I am not. Are you two married? Excuse me? Honey, do you hear this? I'm not disgusting. It's a disgusting. What are you going serious? This just in. News of Kidra, the idea of Selfcest has a definitely powerful hit on the community. Later in, we're going to talk about its ideals and its views on how it affects society here and now. Thank you for watching, and subscribe. I'm so disgusting. Oh, I said I think myself there. Oh my gosh. This is also a reminder that this is kind of more like an 18 plus video, and that's your warning, kids. Don't watch this because I'm talking about a lot of weird stuff. Selfcest. Roll 1, Scene 1 Alpha, Take 1. Welcome to the channel. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Kidra. This is my channel called Skit. And today I want to talk about Selfcest. As you can probably tell, and given per the earlier definition, Selfcest is whenever a fandom decides to ship a character with itself, either doppelganger, clone, or usually from a different dimension and or what's the word? Like, not time era, because that doesn't make sense, but it's been done before. Actually, we'll get to that. This is actually a really common trope. I looked up a few, some history and some facts about this that I'm excited to tell you about. But again, before we get into that, I'm one of those people that ascribes to, wow, that's really weird, and I'm gonna low-key say that it's morally wrong. And a lot of people I actually found don't always agree with that, which makes sense because so many people ship it. But here I am to say why perhaps this is wrong, not in that cest part of the Selfcest, but in a different way. While I agree with that mentality, I have something different about how this ideology, this fandom, this mentality will actually affect society in and of itself that I'd really like to bring forward and to hear what your thoughts are. So let's jump into it. My first ever introduction to this Selfcest, which I hate the word, is actually in one of the first fandoms I was in. Do you want to take a guess? If you guessed Undertale, you are correct. The Undertale fandom is the first one I distinctly remember having issues with. Not only are we talking about the straight up incest, where it's brother x brother, which is absolutely disgusting, but also the fact that there are other issues in the fandom that we're not going to address because that's not what this video is about. In fact, I want you to know a little bit more about Kidra. Kidra, before she knew a lot of this stuff, like went to cons and even went to school, where I went to these places dressed as these characters. And I have a lot of really good memories and only like one bad one with dealing with the fandom themselves. So while the fandom was toxic, thankfully I never dealt with a majority of it, which isn't to say that didn't happen, of course. The reason I bring this all together, other than to do a little introduction about myself, is the fact that Selfcest has been around for actually a while. And whenever I was originally looking up the history of Selfcest, it's been this weird thing that's been going on even before the quote-unquote first fandom to do it. And I actually find that insanely intriguing. The history of Selfcest apparently begins with the Onceler fandom, weirdly enough. By that Onceler fandom, I mean this sub-fandom that came from the Lorax fandom, where the Onceler is shipped with a different version of himself. I wasn't part of the fandom. I wasn't really on Tumblr, even though I was like aware during those times, like cognitively aware, because I just didn't see the point. And whenever I saw the Onceler and all of his fandom people, I went, that's really weird, and moved on with my life. But here's the thing. This isn't where Selfcest started. Perhaps it's the first major time it happened, but it actually happened in the 1980s. We actually have an example of something that's happened quite recently in this idea and in this fandom trope, which is Mickey 17, where there's a man who keeps dying, and then he comes, whenever he's dying, it's his clones dying and not him because he's expendable. Granted, this is a quote of a movie that someone's told me. I haven't had the chance to watch it, but from what I gathered from the trailer, I'm not far off with the Selfcest thing, because Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 coexist at the same time because they both survive. Don't know why, myriad of circumstances, I'm sure. And the girlfriend of the original wants to enjoy having two boyfriends. We're gonna do that because I'm on YouTube and what the crap. But to jump back in time, rather than our more modern era of Mickey 17, and then back a little more to the Undertale, and then back a little more, we actually have an example of this in Star Trek, of all places. In Star Trek 7 Deep Space, there's a occurrence of this happening between this character named Kira Nears. Now, again, a lot of these fandoms I'm bringing up are not things that I've actually seen, but are things I found online that talked about this. So please don't come at me for not watching all these shows before talking about this. It's just a phenomenon I'm really interested by. That's why I'm bringing it up in video form. Apparently in Kira, the Mirrorverse flirted with the regular verse, which I don't know if that's the first instance of Selfcest. It sure is interesting that it started there. Interestingly enough about this trope is that it's not just inclusive in the sci-fi realm or even just the, oh yeah, there's monsters here, but it goes beyond that. It goes into Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Apparently in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Willow Rosenberg, apparently in Buffy the Vampire the Universe, a vampire version of William? Apparently in Buffy the Vampire Universe, the vampire version of Willow Rosenberg flirted with normal Willow. Editing Kitra here. I just realized how weird it is that every version of Selfcest has been woman. Follow me on TikTok. But it gets a little more interesting in the idea of this history, because it didn't just start in Star Trek and didn't just start in vampires, and it wasn't just flirting, because there's an actual show, an actual thing that is canon, an actual movie where the Selfcest version of themselves, a man met a woman, fake noodled, and then he actually produced a child with this woman, and it turned out to be a gender bent version of himself. It's called Red Dwarf. I don't know what that's about. It sounds sci-fi, but what the heck? You gotta admit that one's a little weird. Not even weird, that's a kooky. Whoever thought about that is just like, it seems like something in Twin Peaks or some TV show where it's like, and I was the father. And it was just themselves. It quite literally seems like a melodrama where all these things are happening, where it's supposed to shock you and surprise you and be unsuspecting. In fandoms, it seems to produce this perplexity? I don't know if that's the right word, but I know I didn't say it right. It seems to produce and encourage this idea of, well, this character from this universe knew this version because they lived the same life in so many different ways so well that they should be together. And that is where I begin to explain my problem. And you're probably looking at me, you're going, Kitra, really? That's your problem right there? Because that ideology produces the idea of self-isolation. And you're looking at me like, okay, you're thinking too deeply. We live in a society now where we are constantly shown in TV shows and movies and things like that, where it's like nobody ever truly understands the real you. Nobody knows the real you and who you are, but you. And a lot of movies try to coexist this, or not coexist, try to fix this dilemma by saying, well, you have to let friends in, family in, which is true. But the idea of Selfcest actively goes against that. And in today's young culture, where a lot of young minds step into the fandom space of finally having a creative outlet, of finally having this community that they can talk to and interact with and see in these characters that they relate to some way in their heart. And they're saying, wow, that's a version of me, or wow, I really like this character, or wow, I see myself wanting to either be like them or be with someone like them in the future. Selfcest destroys a part of that mentality because it's teaching young minds, impressionable people subconsciously, but nonetheless teaching that there's no one who will know you better than yourself. And therefore, what's the point of ever trying to share yourself or be with others? It's the fact that nobody will ever take the time to learn about you, which is a dangerous mentality because it's not true. And today we live in a very dark world. I'm not gonna lie. We have a lot of selfish people, and the internet really, really loves to push that in our face. Everything in this world is trying to turn us against each other. And in a fandom mentality, how this one affects society, because all of them affect society in little ways. This produces and it breeds this mentality of nobody will understand me like me, so why should I bother? And in an age of AI, where we're constantly seeing proof of either finding some sort of pleasure, some sort of answer from AI, that just continues it. Because why would you need anyone else if AI can do everything you need to do? Perhaps you're looking at me going, Kendra, wow, this is a really deep way of thinking, like this is stupid. And there are some people online who is talking about self-cest and saying they don't understand why people are so against it. Because a lot of people will find the cest in self-cest inappropriate, which I agree with, but this user also wanted to bring up a really interesting point, is that there is no way for this to be physically possible in the real world. There is no way for one to fall in love with oneself and do that. I agree that it's not physically possible, but it is emotionally possible. Because again, this whole mentality is continuous down the path of, if I'm alone, then I'm the only person I can love. I'm the only person I can understand. I'm the only person who can be this way. And take this from someone who was extremely, I say agoraphobic, I realize it's the wrong one, but I don't know the right one off the top of my head. A few years ago, I had extreme fear of leaving the house because I was terrified of people and what they would say, think, or do to me. Because I was constantly anxious and I couldn't stop crying at the thought of leaving the house, because what if somebody looked at me wrong? What if somebody said something to me? What if somebody hurt me? That concern of people being terrified to not only talk to others, but to the point of leaving the house is alive and real. As a fandom, you are welcome to do what you want to do, because I have no right to say, no, you can't do something. But I do feel a necessity to bring up this important issue. This has a huge effect on society in the way that we are churning right now. We are in a very dangerous path where so many people are isolated and alone, who are creative and need other people because you are not meant to survive on your own, who are breathlessly and dangerously looking to media anyway, social media like films and TV shows, to books and all these things to figure out how to live their lives. Self-cest is just the tip of an iceberg where it is constantly producing and saying, be alone, be alone, be alone, nobody cares. But I have found that the more you go out, the more you talk to people, the more you are kind and genuine and loving. And yourself, that people will actually like who you are and want to be around you. And that's a hard thing to hear because it's scary. And it's scary because if that's real, then a lot of people have been hiding for nothing. You're not meant to live in fear. You need to step out. You need to do things. You need to be strong. And I understand that's really hard, especially from some stranger on the other side of the screen. But take it from me, from Kitra, not just this online persona of Kitra. It's worth it. I wish I could end on just that, and maybe I will. So please tell me your thought process below. Perhaps you think that I'm not the wisest in this suit and that I'm overcomplicating it. I would appreciate it if you just comment on a video, because then it tells YouTube to keep sending people my way. On top of all of that, please like and subscribe. Please either watch this video, I don't know what I'm putting here, possibly in Kanto, really old, and I don't quite agree with the things I said there anymore, but I still made it. And this video about Shrek's marriage. It's been a while since I've actually watched that video, so we'll see what I say in there. And thank you so much. I'm going to be uploading more. Goodbye, and that's a picture up on Selfcest.